Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. On this show, we love to take a look at stuff that's got people talking. Today,
Yeah.
we are diving into something that's got the internet buzzing, a
Yeah.
Reddit post. And this one, it's got everyone thinking about love and money.
Yeah,
Huh.
this one really gets at the heart of things. The hidden costs of love, you could say. Or maybe even the cost of unpaid labor in a long-term relationship.
Exactly. Like what happens when you give 8 years of your life to raising a family? You're a stay-at-home parent, 6 kids, 3 of them aren't even yours biologically.
Wow.
You're building a home, you're supporting your partner, and then you decide, okay, I'm ready to go back to work. You find a great job, a job that might even pay more than your partner, and suddenly everything explodes.
Yeah, that's what's so fascinating about this case. You think everything's fine, you've got this shared understanding, but then all of a sudden, bam! Your partner's accusing you of using them. They want money back for all those years you spent at home.
It's like you thought you were both on the same team, working toward the same goal, and then, wham! You get hit with this resentment, like you were never appreciated.
Your whole world gets flipped upside down.
Yeah, and today, that's what we're going to unpack, all of it. The emotions, the economics,
Yeah.
all the societal stuff that feeds into this kind of situation.
It really forces you to think about how we value different types of work. Like some work is seen as more important than others, and that plays out in our relationships.
Absolutely. So for our listeners who haven't seen this Reddit post, let's set the scene. We'll call the woman in the story Sarah. To keep things clear, Sarah's been a stay-at-home mom for 8 years, 6 kids.
6 kids.
Yeah, she was homeschooling them for a while, managing the house, cooking, cleaning, all of it, like running a small business.
A full-time job.
Absolutely. But no paycheck.
And what's important here is that this wasn't forced on her. In the beginning, Sarah's partner was totally on board with her staying home. They agreed it was best for the family. He was happy to be the one bringing in the money.
Right. And Sarah loved being a stay-at-home mom. She says in her post that it was fulfilling, rewarding. She doesn't regret it. But as the kids got older, she wanted a new challenge.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So she decided to go back to work.
And that's where things take a turn.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah finds this amazing job, good benefits, a pension, and with all that, she could actually end up earning more than her partner.
She even says in her post, she thought it would be a win-win. She could help out financially,
Right.
take some pressure off her partner,
Right.
and do something for herself.
But instead of being happy for her partner gets angry. He says she was using him for all those years, that her work at home meant nothing, and then he demands that she pays him back
Wow.
for all the time she wasn't earning an income.
It's like he sees those 8 years as some kind of debt.
Exactly.
Like she owes him for every meal and every load of laundry.
Mm.
He even made a list of all their monthly expenses to prove how much she owes.
Oh, wow.
That's a little scary, to be honest.
It really is. It shows how much we connect value with a paycheck. Like all the work Sarah did at home just doesn't count.
And Sarah's devastated. She was so excited to go back to work, to contribute financially, and now she feels betrayed and worthless.
It's a classic example of invisible labor, all the
Yeah.
work that's essential, but goes unnoticed because it doesn't come with a paycheck. And it's often women who end up doing this kind of work.
And on top of all that, Sarah's partner starts comparing her to his ex-wife.
Oh, that's never a good sign.
No, it is not.
It suggests he's got some unresolved issues from his past, and he's taking them out on Sarah instead of trusting her and seeing how much she does for their family.
It's like he's looking at her through the lens of his past hurt and assuming the worst.
Exactly.
It's really sad.
It is.
Yeah, it's like he can't separate what happened before from his relationship with Sarah, and she's the one paying the price.
Mm.
But even beyond the emotional stuff, there's the whole financial side of things. For 8 years, Sarah depended on her partner for money.
Right. And that financial dependence, it's a big deal. When one person controls all the finances, it creates a power imbalance. The other person can feel trapped, especially if they haven't talked openly about money.
And it sounds like that's a big part of the problem here. Sarah and her partner just assumed they were on the same page,
Yeah.
but they never actually talked about what would happen if things changed.
Yeah, and those unspoken assumptions, they can come back to haunt you. When Sarah decides to go back to work, it changes the whole power dynamic. And her partner, he's trying to regain control. It's almost like he's saying, hold on, you're changing the rules now. You owe me for all the years I supported you financially.
But isn't that support a two-way street?
Yeah.
Sarah was taking care of everything at home. It's not like she was sitting around doing nothing. What she did had real value.
Exactly. That's where the idea of invisible labor comes in. It's not just about the physical tasks. It's the mental load, the emotional labor, all the planning and organizing that goes into running a home and raising kids. That stuff is important. And if you had to pay someone to do all of that, childcare, cooking, cleaning, you'd be spending a fortune.
Seriously,
Yeah.
think about how much daycare for 6 kids would cost, plus a housekeeper, plus someone to cook all the meals.
There are websites that actually calculate the economic value of stay-at-home parenting, and the numbers are huge. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars per year. So to say Sarah's work meant nothing is just plain wrong.
It's like society doesn't value the work that's traditionally been seen as women's work. We expect mothers to be these selfless caregivers, putting everyone else's needs before their own.
Right.
And while that's important, it shouldn't mean they're not recognized or compensated.
And that's how women end up being taken advantage of, especially in relationships where they don't have control over the finances. It can lead to resentment, power imbalances, and sometimes even financial abuse.
So going back to Sarah, why do you think her partner reacted so badly? We've talked about the financial dependence, his issues from his previous marriage, and how society views gender roles. Are there other things going on here?
It's hard to say for sure without knowing more about them, but it's possible that his self-worth is tied to being the provider. For 8 years, he was the only one bringing in money. That probably gave him a sense of identity and control.
So when Sarah got a job that could pay more than him, it threatened that sense of identity.
Exactly. Even if Sarah didn't want to take over as the main breadwinner, just the possibility of her earning more might have made him feel insecure or less masculine.
It's like he's turning this into a competition instead of working together as a team.
Yeah, it's like he thinks only one person can be the winner financially.
And that goes back to how men are often taught to think about money and power.
Right. There's this fear that if their partner becomes financially independent, they'll lose control or be left behind.
And that fear can lead to anger, controlling behavior, even trying to sabotage their partner's success.
Absolutely. And in Sarah's case, that fear might be even stronger because of his ex-wife. From what she says in her post, it sounds like his ex-wife might have hurt him financially.
So he's taking it out on Sarah. He's making her the bad guy.
And that's really unfair. He's not seeing Sarah for who she really is. A loving partner who's given so much to their family.
It's heartbreaking because it shows how past trauma can damage a good relationship. And for Sarah, it's a double whammy. She's dealing with her partner's accusations, and she's financially vulnerable after depending on him for so long.
And don't forget, they're in a common law partnership.
Right, which means they have legal rights and obligations.
Exactly. Depending on where they live, Sarah might have a legal right to some of their assets, even though they're not officially married.
So she needs to know what her rights are and what she can do to protect herself.
Absolutely. Talking to a lawyer is a good idea in this situation.
So she can make informed decisions about her future,
Right.
no matter what her partner decides to do. Knowledge is power, especially when you're dealing with something as emotional and complicated as a breakup. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Is there any way to save this relationship? Can they come back from all this resentment and mistrust? We'll talk about that in the final part of our deep dive.
We'll look at strategies for better communication, how to deal with those unspoken expectations, and the importance of setting healthy boundaries. We'll also talk about the bigger picture, how society undervalues unpaid labor, and what we can do to change that.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking about Sarah, the stay-at-home mom who's now facing some serious backlash from her partner after she got a new job.
Yeah, it's been a tough conversation, but it's brought up some really important issues about work, relationships, and all the unseen labor that goes into raising a family.
And I'm sure a lot of our listeners are thinking, okay, this is all interesting, but what can Sarah actually do? How can she deal with this situation, come out feeling strong and respected?
Well, the first thing is communication. Sarah and her partner need to start talking again, even if it's hard.
I can imagine how difficult that must be. When you're feeling hurt and betrayed, how do you even begin to have that conversation?
It's about approaching it with empathy, but also being firm. Sarah needs to try to understand where her partner's coming from, even if she doesn't agree with them. But she also needs to be clear about her own needs and boundaries.
So it's about finding that middle ground, validating his feelings, but not letting him walk all over her.
Exactly. She could try using I statements to express how she feels, like, I hear that you're feeling resentful and that you're worried about money, but I also feel hurt when you say my work at home means nothing. I need you to recognize what I do and respect my decision to go back to work.
That sounds a lot better than getting into a big argument.
It is. It keeps the focus on her own experience. and opens the door for a more productive conversation.
About how they can move forward together.
Right. Another important thing is setting boundaries, both in terms of communication and who does what at home.
Because Sarah can't be expected to do everything, work full-time job, and still take care of the house and kids all by herself.
No way. They need to talk honestly about sharing those responsibilities. Sarah needs to be firm about what she's willing to do and what she's not. Maybe they make a schedule or divide tasks based on what they're good at. They could even think about hiring help if they can afford it.
The important thing is to find a solution that works for both of them.
Exactly.
And we can't forget about the financial side of things. Sarah was dependent on her partner for 8 years.
Right.
That makes her vulnerable,
It does.
especially if things don't work out between them.
Sarah needs to start building her own financial security, having her own savings account, her own credit cards, and understanding their finances.
Taking control of her own money.
Exactly. So she's not stuck in a situation where she feels powerless.
And as we said before, talking to a lawyer is a good idea.
Definitely.
Sarah needs to know what her rights are as a common law partner.
Especially if they decide to split up.
Things like who gets what assets.
And child custody.
Knowing her legal options will help Sarah make the best decisions for herself and her kids.
It will.
So we've talked about communication, boundaries, financial independence, legal advice. But is there any chance of saving this relationship? Can they really come back from all this hurt and mistrust?
It's possible, but it takes both people being willing to work at it. Sarah's partner needs to take a good look at himself. He needs to face his insecurities and challenge his beliefs about gender roles. And most importantly, he needs to appreciate Sarah for who she is and everything she does for their family.
That's asking a lot.
It is.
But love is about choosing to see the best in each other.
Even when it's tough.
And sometimes that means getting help.
Like couples counseling. It can give them a safe space to work through their issues and learn to communicate better.
But in the end, the decision to stay or go is Sarah's. She needs to choose what's best for her and her kids.
Exactly. No matter what anyone else says.
And sometimes,
Yeah.
the best thing you can do is walk away.
It's not always easy, but sometimes it's necessary.
It's sad. But sometimes letting go is the bravest and kindest thing you can do. So to all our listeners out there who might be going through something similar, remember this. Your work matters. Your needs are important. And you deserve to be treated with respect. Don't be afraid to set boundaries. Stand up for yourself. And ask for help if you need it.
You're not alone. These conversations are happening everywhere.
And by talking about them openly, we can start to change things and create a better world for everyone.
That's what we're all about.
Well said. And on that note, we're wrapping up for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back next week with another interesting topic. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other.